I guess I should stream this. I don't know. I was just watching this and I thought it was interesting. I might give a take here and there. I find myself giving less and less takes as time goes on, but
Or any other setting in which there is no war. All of these circumstances and characteristics, so the argument goes, are privileges. Each one allegedly gives an individual a better likelihood that they will realize their full potential and make the most of their life. One thing that you might have noticed about these characteristics is that they don't have very much in common with one another. Race, class, attractiveness, parental guidance, height, these are all remarkably different ways of assessing a person's privilege or lack thereof. So let's start simple and analyze an obvious example. Wealth privilege. Money presents you with more options and opportunities in life. The more of it that you have, money also sustains a high quality of life. Good schools, healthy food, safe communities, and the ability to travel. So if somebody was born into a wealthy family, that could safely be described as a privilege. Another example here that easily fits the
absolutely.
standards might be the privilege of having an intact family, having two parents who are married to one another.
100%.
According to numerous studies,
I talked about that yesterday when I was. I want to. Hold up. I gotta subscribe to Iman Gaddy or Gotti or whatever. I gotta sub to him. I gotta stay, I gotta keep him in my sub box. Damn, he's popping off. He's gotta be the most famous Iman in the world at this point. Maybe. I mean, at the very moment, right? Got to be. Wait. Did I sub to him on the right channel? Yeah, okay, I did.
children whose parents have gotten divorced are statistically less likely to be physically or emotionally healthy, more likely to drop out of high school, work lower paying jobs, become addicted to drugs and alcohol, not to mention twice as likely to attempt suicide, and 300%
Like I said all these things yesterday.
more likely to
I
require
swear I have not watched this video since like, what was it, 2017 or whatever, since this was? 2019, yeah.
psychological help. Empirically, having an intact family is a privilege. The same could be said of being able to use your entire body, the privilege of being mentally healthy, the privilege of being well raised, and the privilege of living in a state of peace, far removed from a war zone or any other military conflict. All of these circumstances satisfy the criteria. They grant advantages which are unearned, and they are, according to the theory, invisible, which, again, is just a figurative way of saying that if you've always been wealthy, you don't know what it's like to be poor. If you're able bodied, you
Kind of. I mean, if you're gonna go that route, you have to say everything's invisible then. If you're poor, you don't know what it's like to be rich. So you have no right to complain about rich people doing things that you think you wouldn't do if you were in that position. You kind of have to go both ways.
don't know what it's like being unable to use your hands or your legs. If your family is intact, you don't know how it feels to live in a broken home, but if you do lack any of these privileges, you do know what.
I will say this. I have another life hack. Uh, this only works because very few people are using it right now, but more and more people are using it as time goes on. Um, and if you're like, easily influenced by mainstream media, you may be under the impression that like minorities have it worse than the average person of a majority group. First of all, if you think this way, you're just not a very intelligent person. So you could just leave the stream. I mean, these life hacks aren't going to do anything for you because you won't be able to execute on them properly anyways. And I don't feel like going through the strenuous hours and hours of non-stop, like logical pathways to prove that that's an incorrect way of thinking. I could, and I'll probably do it on a different day if you want to debate about it. Sure, I'm down, but just talking to no one like this, or just talking to a chat, no one's even on my stream. I have 0 viewers right now, so yeah, no, it's not worth the effort right now. I just assume that like at least 20% of people are smart enough to see through these lies. And for those of you who aren't smart enough to see through it, even if I did explain it, most of you deep down would still not resonate with it. So yeah, just like leave the stream, unsubscribe from, unfollow my social media, dislike the video, whatever, right? No dislikes aren't even visible anymore, so it doesn't really matter. Um, so now that like those people are gone, like seriously, if you believe that like all this privilege is like how this like um, is like the primary factor in like uh, a person's like happiness, individual happiness and fulfillment and meaning in their life comes from, you know, them being wealthy and things like that. If you're truly like stupid enough to believe these things, then honestly just leave my stream. I'm not trying to antagonize you or anything. I'm just saying you're not my audience, you know? Um, and now that those people are gone, the life hack is and all those people already know the life hack. They're all using it because they know the truth of the matter. Um, people only espouse justice when it mirrors their own personal image. That's the only time they'll do it. So we all know that colleges generally hate straight white men, right? And they'll discriminate against them to decide who gets to go to their college. Now they'll allow some of them, of course, they have to. But if you give a college two options of two equally smart students who took the same classes, who got the same GPA, same SAT score, and the only difference was that one is a white guy and one is a black girl, 9 times out of 10, the college is picking the black girl. Um, in fact, several colleges are literally in the middle of lawsuits because of this kind of discrimination. But, you know, America doesn't care about discrimination so long as it's, the mainstream media says it's okay to discriminate against these people but not these people. So um, the minorities are what college favors at the moment. Just kidding. You would think that like minorities, you know, the less of a population there would be, the more of a disadvantage they'd have. They actually just don't discriminate as against white men nearly as much as they do against Asian men. Simply because Asian men, like Asian people in general, are statistically significantly uh, more likely to get better grades and higher SAT scores. So they're just discriminating people who actually deserve to go to the college. They're discriminating people who are more qualified, basically, and saying, no, we got to support the people who are less qualified, because that way if we can get them on our side, we reach a bigger team. Like I said, the weak will always be a bigger team than the strong, and they have strength in numbers. If you can rally up the bottom 51% to take over the top 49%, you're on the winning side. If you can brainwash them into dividing themselves into groups and putting themselves in labels and all this bullshit, then you win. You're able to manipulate them. And they're weak, so they're easy to manipulate. The strong people are not easy to manipulate. So if you really want to, ensure your survival and protect your mortality and live in a life of ease and like comfort, and you want the world to be your hedonistic playground, there's really only one path to go. Manipulate the weak into destroying the strong. That's how you do it. And so these colleges, which are, on a mission to support this ideology, they don't want to deal with the public backlash of offending a student. All they really care about is their image. So exploit this. This is the life hack, okay? Like for me, I'm Indian, which means if I wanted to go get a tech job, even if I'm qualified for it, the less qualified Hispanic will get the job over me because they're a minority. And, according to the big company, minorities are oppressed. Says the big company who literally has, slaves in the cobalt mines working from 5 years old as children, being poisoned, getting cancer at a young age, and says these companies it's wrong to oppress minorities in whatever they say, I guess. So the colleges are also in on this. They're, even if they're like not so morally reprehensible to go on the path of destruction like this for all the people that want to get an education. Most of them just have too stupid administrative teams that even if they have good intentions, they still have this unnecessary overcorrection that leads to the education system being dominated almost entirely by the feminine, instinct, which it already was to begin with. Most teachers are females, and that leads to a feminine imbalance, and now most students are females. In fact, when I went to SCAD, it was literally 74% female. 3 out of 4 people in the entire school were female. And so it's even more imbalanced, and it's becoming more and more imbalanced as the days go. It's not getting any less. It's not getting any more balanced. It's getting worse exponentially, and that's why you see all these things happening. Just imbalances across the board, systematically. Basically, this is systematic discrimination. That's what this is. Like, you want to talk about systematic discrimination? That's literally what this is. Here's an actual example of it, and even like, schools like Harvard are hit with lawsuits and stuff like that. I'm Indian. I don't really care though. I'm a dude, and I tend to lean somewhat strong rather than weak. So for me, it's not really that big of a deal. I'll just make it work anyways, regardless of my situation. I'll play the hand that I'm dealt with and not complain that somebody else is a different hand than me. But because I'm Indian, if I wanted to get into MIT, what I would do instead is I would write down Native American. Boom. Doesn't even matter if I can read at that point. I'm getting into the college or getting the job or whatever, right? Because if they don't give it, I could just accuse them of hating a minority. They have to let me in. It's a great life hack. If only a few people use it, and only a few people will use it. If too many people use it, then it stops working. It stops being a life hack. And right now, I would say only maybe 1 or 2% of people in the world are doing this kind of thing, where they're basically saying, "Are you assuming my privilege? Are you assuming my, my race?" Basically, and a lot of people are doing that for gender, but I think that's more of a lack of role play thing when you're young. But I know a couple people who were in my friend group who, when we took the SATs, they put on there that they were like some other race, not white or whatever, So it is somewhat of a life hack, and there's evidence suggesting that black people get their SAT scores boosted. So all you really got to do is, if you take the SAT, just mark in that little bubble that you're black, right? Just whatever has the stereotypically like worst scores, black or Hispanic or whatever, just mark yourself as that. So, yeah, I know of a white guy who was in my friend group who identified on the SAT as a Native American. He said he identifies as a Native American girl, but I don't remember if there was even a male or female option on the SAT. But then he was like, if somebody asked me, I'll just say I'm transitioning. So, yeah. The fucking Hive or some shit like that. Like, got his info and then gave him like a guaranteed list of colleges or some shit. And he got into a college that he was denied from, apparently. But I think that's just a bullshit story to make it seem like it's way worse than it actually is. Of course, it's getting pretty bad, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. But, I mean, I don't know how I verify that kind of thing unless I like saw the rejection letter and then subsequently the acceptance letter. And I think a college would be at least smart enough to realize, like, oh wait, we already rejected this person. So, hey, but I mean, if it might be true, I don't know. I have no way to prove it or not prove it. But it's a very easy exploit that really can't do any harm, It can only really help you if you just go, oh, I identify as a black trans female that transitioned from female to female because, I was never a man, I don't want to be a man. And that's really how you do it. Just completely disassociate yourself with anything masculine or strong in general. Just all essence of any sort of mental strength or self-control or self-worth or anything like that. Disassociate yourself from that completely. And if you're truly strong, like, you won't feel the need to do this because you'll have some sort of integrity. But if you're not strong enough, strong enough to have any integrity, this is a little interesting life hack for you. People with, who, not people with, I would say people who claim to have less privilege will just be handed, given handouts of more and more privilege throughout life, especially in the United States. Not so much in some other countries, but in the United States, yeah. I'm never gonna do this kind of thing. I'm like, I think it's wrong. I'd rather stick to my morals. But then again, I think it's wrong to deny you to deny you something based on who you are, and say, oh, you're privileged or you're not privileged or whatever reason people might have for it. I think it's wrong to do it either way. So if you're cheating, at least you can reconcile your morality in that you're cheating a cheater, right? Eventually, people with like intelligence will realize that I'm right. The logic that you can identify as anything has been taken so far. And at the end of the day, I have science on my side, I have logic on my side, and reason on my side. So given enough time, people who are like, not NPCs will realize that I'm right. But I suspect more and more people who will become NPCs and slowly start to shift the paradigm into, oh no, you think this way, you have to be silenced type shit, So I would say at least within like the next 20 years or so, use this life hack before it either becomes too robust to work anymore, or it becomes obsolete because a lot of people are using it. So yeah, go for it. Exploit the broken system. More life hacks down the road. Subscribe for more life hacks. Let's watch this.
All in all, the theory itself seems to make a fair observation. And so far,
the reason why I'm even doing this is because I saw thin in here, and I'm thin.
Examples that we've checked off fit very well into the framework of the theory. But if we take a look at some of the others here, we might not find that to be the case. One such characteristic would be tall privilege, a characteristic which is naturally...
I mean, ultimately tall is no different from these. Because these are all pattern recognition based. People look around in their lives and they go, clearly white people have more privilege, because they just look around and that's what they see. Same thing with tall. I mean, you look around, you ask, a lot of girls in public what they prefer in men. Like 80% of them, the first three attributes they'll say are tall. And of course, I don't have any statistics, but it's just a heuristic. It's just a pattern that you notice. Just like how these are all also patterns that you notice. And privilege is not even the right way of looking at it. Privilege in terms of what? Because, I mean, if you're black, you have more privilege in the music industry. I know people that are white that want to make it in the music industry, that when they make calls, they have to put on a black accent. Or when they, write emails, they have to make it sound like they're black. Like, some things will give you privileges in some avenues, some things will give you privileges in other avenues. If you want to talk about, a very deep underlying avenue like personal, fulfillment in life, this is the antithesis of that. The vast majority of suicides and things like that come from wealthy people. The vast majority of depression is among wealthy people. In fact, the most depressed group in the United States is straight white men. Per capita, it is the most depressed group. I mean, males are, I think 2.5 to 3 times more likely to commit suicide than females. So, yeah, they're also significantly more likely. I think like 92 or so % of all homeless people are men. Like, I can keep going. I could, list the statistics. More people are likely to die of drug overdose than men. The more people that are likely to be killed by police or incarcerated or killed in prison or be killed in violent crime or killed on the job or things like that, right? It's men. The more people that are likely to die without a partner are men. I mean, I can keep going. I'm not going to, because it's an exhaustive list. It's an exhaustive list. Simply put, men don't live as long. So, privileges in some avenues, and not privileges in other avenues. If you want to talk about personal fulfillment and happiness, um, this is one that's important. Intact family. Um, I wouldn't say thin, but I would say fit. Okay, wait. Now let's just go through the list. No, no. That's an iffy one. That's, I would say, yeah, to a certain extent, yeah. Um, it depends on what you mean by personal fulfillment and happiness. A lot of people consider a hedonistic lifestyle happy. A lot of people consider just being prideful in their own degeneracy personal happiness. So it depends on what you consider to be personal happiness. Um, able-bodied, for the most part, yeah, I would say so, yeah. Uh, I mean, there's always going to be instances of people, who are without an arm or without a leg or like paralyzed or whatever, or like diabetic from birth and things like that, or from a very young age and stuff. And a lot of these people will be much, much, much happier than the white straight man who grew up in a very wealthy family with two parents and all this stuff, and they will be much, much happier. But by and large, it's ultimately a scaling problem. It's a skill issue thing, and you reach a certain point where, look, if you're blind and deaf and you're missing both arms and both legs, and you have no sense of taste or smell, yeah, you're screwed. Okay, sorry to tell you, you're screwed. Not like that even matters, because nobody that's like that can watch this video, but wealthy, no. Educated, depends on what you mean by educated. School educated, no. Tall. From the patterns I've seen, personally in my own life, I would say yeah. I would say short people, I would say I see a pattern where the shorter someone is, the more likely they are to be easily manipulated by others. I don't know what it is, but it might be something so minor, but it tips the scales because of how extreme society is nowadays. American, more than some, less than others. Mentally healthy. This is a tricky one, because mentally healthy and like mental health is so deeply intertwined with so many other things. You could say that a lot of other things are factors in mentally healthy. In fact, you could get rid of all these and just say good mental health is a privilege. But then you have to determine that, so you kind of eliminate this and start to break it down. Beautiful, as long as you're not utterly horrendous, I would say everyone is pretty much on the same individual playing field, as individuals. Everyone has their own game to play, everyone has their own hierarchy to be in, everyone has their own level to be on, right? There's always someone for you at your level. So, yeah, intact family, absolutely, 100%. Christian, hard to say. Of course, a lot of people get their, fulfillment from their religious values, but nothing about it is steadfast in personal fulfillment. Young, no, no. Too many factors to explain, but no. Well raised, of course, and that kind of goes hand in hand with intact family. English speaking, no. Thin, I'll get to that. Cisgender, isn't that the same thing as straight? Whatever. I would say, honestly, the whole gender thing is kind of a balancing act. You don't see gay people and straight people, you don't see gay people and trans people in societies that are not privileged. It's not that these things will lead to privilege. It's that privilege will lead to these things being emergent properties. It's the other way around. experiments have been done. You take a bunch of rats, even you see it in the animal kingdom as well. You take a bunch of rats, you put them in a giant, basically heaven for rats, unlimited other rats, unlimited friends, unlimited sexual partners, unlimited toys, unlimited food, unlimited water, drugs, cocaine. Rats love cocaine. You give, like Narcos, got it right, and rats do love cocaine. But you give rats basically everything they want. You know what happens, right? They stop acting like normal animals. They start ignoring food. They start, starving themselves. They start cannibalizing each other. They start developing kinks. They start, going crazy with it. They start, having giant, basically orgy parties, and they develop homosexual relationships. Like that happens among rats. You can simulate that. You give rats basically a perfect world where there's no struggle. They turn gay. So, I mean, they turn bi. Basically, all of them do. And yeah, they start eating their children. The males and females start dividing and hating each other, and the females become incredibly choosy, while the top percentage of men have an ungodly amount of sex, while the bottom majority of men are having no sex with the females, but all the females are having sex all the time. It starts to emulate a lot of what you see in like society today. It's not that these things are factors in privilege, so much more that privilege is a factor in these. And living in peace, depends on what you consider peace. Absolute peace does not give people meaning in life. Conflict is required for meaning. But dude, like, thin, I'll tell you this, bro. If a fat person goes to the gym and they work out just as much as me, they're going to be significantly stronger. And I value strength heavily in my life. I don't value looks all that much. And if you value looks, yeah, I definitely, with the same amount of effort, can look a lot better because I'm thin. But if you value strength, I'd rather be fat and go to the gym and get fit after being fat than be skinny and go to the gym and have to endure like the fucking like stretch marks and pain of dealing with like so much fucking joint pain, dude. It's unbelievable. I have to do all these isometric workouts to increase my tendon strength and all that shit because I work out really, really hard. And look, a lot of people are very weak and lazy and they won't work out nearly as hard as me. They're no Goggins, right? They're no David Goggins. But I mean, neither am I. But and for these people, it might be a different story. But for someone like me who has the willpower to push myself to my limits, I would much rather be fat and go to the gym than be skinny and go to the gym. Because the same amount of effort will give me significantly more strength. And I'll have way more energy. I'll have an energy reserve to tap into, basically. And then there's like minor things here and there, like, this is like less serious. But there are some downsides to being skinny. Like, I can't shop for clothes that fit me in person. I have to buy it online. Because if I go into a clothing store, they don't have my size, but, they got the Mega Turbo Land Whale Michelin Man Edition, Lizzo special extra large, get it, extra large discount on display. Like, fuck, dude. These guys clearly know their audience. Like, motherfuckers with such little self-control will, like, overspend while shopping, while also at the same time overeat while eating. And so they know their audience well. It makes perfect sense to sell to these people, because people like me that have self-control, we're not going to overspend. So, good call. Like, your audience well, and I can respect that, honestly. But still, like, can't you help out the little guy over here? Like, literally the little guy? Like, the inventory space isn't even that much. Like, the clothes are smaller. They take up less space. Or, climbing walls and trees was really, really hard growing up. I have very little grip strength. And I'm getting better and better at it. I'm just doing bar hangs and stuff like that, bro. I'm getting way better. But, I can't hold ice cubes still. It's really difficult. I could still beat people in the, hand in the bucket of ice water challenge thing because I simply have more willpower than all those other people that have like very little self control. But if I had some insulation, because I'm all bones, dude. Like you should see my hands, bro. It's literally all bone. If I have some insulation, it would be way easier, and I would crush everyone, dude. I couldn't even open water bottles until I was like 15, and even then it hurt like hell, dude. I have literal marks on my finger. I use the same finger to open water bottles even still to this day, because on other fingers it hurts so much, but on this one finger I have calluses that can help me deal with it. That's how bad it used to hurt. I developed calluses from water bottles. Who else has that? And you know another thing I noticed? Non-skinny people can shave their armpits really easily. Skinny people can't because they cave in. And also, being skinny makes you cold all the time. That's like the obvious one, right? There's also a huge problem with going on roller coaster rides. Cause, or just like any ride in general. Because the harnesses, like the handlebars, like the plastic, like thick handlebars that come down, they don't really make you feel all that secure. Because they don't really hold you in place all that, right? You can kind of wiggle around and sometimes you can even wiggle your way out, which could be an advantage in one instance, but in most instances, it's not. It ruins the peace of mind that you could have on like roller coaster rides and stuff. But the worst part about being skinny, like all these things are jokes, right? All these things are like minor things. They have nothing to do with like privilege. Like like every single one of these has a drawback and a benefit to it, right? Oh, I can fit in tight spaces or whatever is the benefit to the harness not being tight enough on me, and it's like only like a one out of every like 5 rides where they don't actually adjust to my size, right? They make it for all sizes. These are all like very minor things I'm just playing around with. But a real problem with being skinny, the worst part, dude, the worst part with being skinny is nobody hugs me twice. Nobody ever sleeps on my shoulder, or on my lap. My shoulder is all bone. It feels like a bag of rocks. And sometimes girls will hug me, right? And I love it. And it's such an insane chemical rush because it doesn't actually happen all that much. I know I'm such a fucking loser, right? I get it. But in their heads, they'll kind of, and I've heard them say this, they'll kind of go like, oh, that was not comfortable at all. This is just a bunch of fucking sticks. Yeah, I'm not doing that again. And I get it, and I'm working out, and I have a protein shake literally right next to me, and I haven't even worked out yet. I'm going to drink another protein shake when I get back. 60 grams of protein in each shake. I'm overloading myself, dude. I'm working on it. But even still, the only female in my entire life who has ever hugged me more than once that I can recall was my mom. Everyone hugged me once and goes like, yeah, nah, it doesn't make sense to this is not like doesn't feel like a real person, It's gotten better, of course. My shoulders haven't. My shoulders are still like rocks, But my hugs, I feel like have gotten a little better. I'm a lot better at that now. But even though I know it's because I'm skinny, it doesn't maybe it makes it a little better, but it still feels terrible. It's still if I don't think about it, if I don't logically walk myself through it, it's because I'm skinny. It's because if I don't remind myself of that, it makes me feel like I'm hated, dude. And in reality, and I don't tell anyone this because I don't want people to like feel bad. I'm like really, like I want to hug everyone, dude. I want to hug everyone. I want to love everyone. I'm kind of like touchy-feely is what I've been told, around people that I'm comfortable with. Like I wanna poke people's cheeks and like brush my fingers through their hair and stuff like that. I want to do these things. Like that's the kind of person I am. People are like, oh, your love language is this. I don't know what they say, but they say that. And even when it has like nothing to do with like any kind of intimacy or anything, I love doing that. I love the oxytocin rush from that. I want to chase that feeling, and it's not there. There are a few like again, it is kind of invisible in a way because I don't know what it would be like to be in like a normal. Like I'm 6 feet tall and about 109 pounds or so, and I used to be worse. I used to be way worse. I've been skinny my whole life. I don't know what it's like to like live your life where it's normal, where people don't stare at you, right? Because basically everyone would like. It didn't matter where I went into, public places, whatever. I was always people would like look at me up and down, my entire body. They notice me, you know. Pretty much everyone used to do that, and a lot of people look at me like I had some kind of deformity, but I can't blame them because I probably looked like I did have some deformities. And back when I was like super skinny, dude, like absurdly skinny, you know, I never even thought of myself as skinny. Like I would walk around, you know, the school and the streets and whatever, like totally normally. And then I would like catch a glance at myself in like my reflection or something like that, or like a window or at like a restaurant or something. I'd be like, damn, I really am straight up just twigs. I really am just skinnier than everyone else around me. Like everyone. Like the only person that's skinnier than me is like fucking Eugenia Cooney or whatever, you know? And she gets help at least. She gets people coming up to her and going, oh, we gotta help you out, we gotta help you out. People used to send me pictures of Eugenia, by the way. They used to be like, this is the female version of Afraaz. That shit was so funny. Like, Indian jokes get old, and I don't really fit the stereotype. Terrorist jokes are overused. I mean, now they're comedy gold because people are not allowed to say them anymore. And besides, I would probably make a shitty terrorist. Like, think about it. Like, if I wanted to hijack a plane or something, right? I'll probably put the gun to the pilot's head and be like, all right, fly the plane into the building. But then he would just like break my arm or some shit. Or if I walk into a place with like C4 strapped to my chest. Like, dude, I'm skinny as fuck. That shit would be weighing me down. And it would be so obvious that I have that under my jacket or something. There's no way I could hide it. And I can't even handle the recoil of most of these, you know, beefy guns that are actually, you know, not for like anything bigger than rabbits, you know? So like the terrorist jokes are much better used on other brown guys, especially guys who like take offense to it. And then like the classic like "this is you" line, you know, that if you have siblings, that's like a relatable line, you know, like when you're watching a movie and there's you know, an ugly character and your siblings go like, "Oh, that's you, that's you." But my brother was smart with it. Like when we were watching Ratatouille, and Anton Ego showed up on screen. He was like, "Oh, that's you. You're Anton Ego. You're the food critic. You hardly even eat and all this stuff." And that was a good line right there. So people used to go like, "This is you," and send me pictures of Eugenia Cooney. And I'm a sucker for the, you know, "this is you" roast. Like it isn't even a "you look like this." It's not a simile. It's "you are this." It's all a metaphor. And when you text it, especially, that's when it's really cool because it has no emotion at all. It feels so serious. That shit was so funny. People would send the funniest things, like the what's it called? The cinnamon stick from Apple Jacks, or like my face used to look a lot like the squirrel from Ice Age, or my body used to be shaped like, you know, Mr. Crocker from Fairly Odd Parents. People had some really good roasts, man. People had some really creative roasts, and it wasn't just like, oh, you look like this person, and it's just some. A lot of roasts are not even like roasts. They're just comparisons on you look like this person. But it was not just that. It was like you look like this person. Oh, and also this person's really ugly. So that was really funny. People got really creative with it. But I don't know why I just broke down the reason why I enjoy being roasted. But it was really creative. It gets your mind working, and I do to a certain extent, right? How did this topic even start? Oh yeah, okay. People used to look at me weird all the time. Like kids, a lot of the time. It's mostly kids. They don't stop staring at me. Those are always kind of like, all right, enough, you know. And I was never intimidating the little kids, which is awesome. That's another benefit to it. I love hanging out with kids, and I hate how people think you're a pedophile if you're hanging out with kids. I don't know. I love teaching them a thing or two, you know. I like the unfiltered, raw personality of someone who has yet to be corrupted. And I like the science experiment of seeing how they react in situations when they don't actually know the fucking, bullshit games of life that are set up for you when you're older that you have to follow. Or like even just someone who doesn't care what people think of them. Simple mindset life, just like how it should be. It always, like, being skinny gave me an advantage when talking to like, not even just kids, but just people in general. But I was like really unintimidating, really unassuming. So if I ever just walked up to someone and was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" It was never there was never any fear in their eyes. And also because I was so skinny that kids paid attention to me, and I kind of stood out. They were interested in going like, "Oh, what's going on here? Something interesting." So that's fun. I like when I'm in like a room filled with a bunch of my younger cousins or whatever, and it's so easy for me to get the attention of all the kids. They're locked in on me, and despite me being twice their age, I weigh just about as much as them actually. So some of my cousins are pretty damn fat actually when I look at it. Shout out to Shania. But yeah, I'm completely unintimidating. It's kind of, I feel like it's the one downside to getting bigger. Honestly, it's the one downside because people are starting to. I'm starting to notice it. Kids are starting to like not be as friendly anymore on first impression at like first glance, right? Like, of course I can mitigate that, right? It just takes a little effort, but they're not as eager to like walk over to me. Um, it's marginal, but it's changing. There's a lot of pros to being skinny, though. Like, you can drive much faster, and you get better gas mileage because you weigh less. Or you take up less space, which seriously helps in cameraman situations where, you can squeeze through like small hallways and people can still walk by. Or you're at a concert and it's all packed, or you're like behind the bar, with a bunch of people back there, and you're not disturbing anyone, right? You're in the background. And also, I could fit into any car. I know people that can't fit into a lot of cars, a lot of supercars. That's a real big like advantage. Or I could sit on anyone else's lap, right? I have to be careful because I got I'm kind of bony. So I sit in a specific way where it's almost entirely I'm sitting with my what's it called, like directly on my hamstrings basically, but I can do it, and it doesn't really hurt anyone. It's easy on planes. I can fly Spirit and not even worry about it because I got a pretty decent chunk of space on my seat. I can have like things next to me and all that on my seat. Tons of perks. Tons of perks. It is cold. Like even right now, it's normal temperature for everyone else, but it's pretty cold. It almost never stops. Like it's so painful being in the car with friends because we're all dudes, right? But all my friends are normal sized, so they're all 70 pounds more than me, so they all blast the cold air, and I hate it. And when girls always complain about like being cold, like a lot of times they'll talk about like oh, like these guys, the men just change the temperature, they make it so cold all the time. I can kind of relate. I can kind of like the guys are like, bro, it's not even cold, and I'm kind of with the girls on this one. Like, fuck, dude, it kind of is actually a little cold. But then again, I realize the human body generates natural body heats. Breathing exercises can fix that. Wim Hof method can fix that. The cold increases testosterone, so bring it on, I guess. And also, I can layer up. You can't layer down, really, if it's too hot, so it is an advantage, I guess, in a way. And also, I kind of have like a thing in common, like a conversation starter with these girls when we're in the same situation, a bunch of girls, a bunch of guys, kind of have like a, damn, do you feel cold? I feel cold, and they kind of know because I'm skinny. They kind of know where I'm coming from, and it's like a nice little conversation starter. So even that's a perk. Like, if you have like self control and you're not like such a pussy that you don't complain about like, oh, it's too hot or too cold or whatever. these things end up being perks because, they end up allowing you to be more social, It's kind of a, I kind of have, like, if you have the mental fortitude to withstand being cold or hot, the ability to, you don't even need to relate to these girls, but the ability to just even claim that you can relate to these girls on something that they don't feel like a lot of men can understand them on, that's an advantage. That's a pro. That's definitely a pro. Being skinny has its perks. I can reach the bottom of a Pringles can without any trouble. I can reach the bottom and like grab a chip and move it around and flip it upside down and all that stuff with my hand inside the Pringles can at the very bottom. And I've seen people get their hands stuck in Pringles cans, bro. So that's pretty much all I got for pros. Pringles can is probably the biggest pro though. Do you guys ever? This is not a pro. This is a neutral thing. But do you guys ever hear your heartbeat? I think I haven't heard it in a long time. Back when I was 6 feet and 88 pounds, in high school I heard it a lot more. I know I was 88 pounds because we did the pre-test and post-test or whatever, like the fitness gram pacer test. Then we did the measurements, height, weight, flexibility, all that stuff. So I was 88 pounds and 6 feet tall. So back then I used to be able to like kind of sense my heartbeat. I was able to feel it. Like if I paid attention and I was quiet and I focused for a bit and there wasn't this fucking fridge next to me that made all this noise, I could actually kind of just feel it in my head or like my neck or like the very top of my thighs could feel it sometimes. Occasionally I could feel it in my fingers, like in the back of my fingers, around where the joints are. And especially in the ears. That's where I felt it the most. Like it was like throughout my entire body, I could feel it. And there was a bit of a delay. Like it took longer for it to reach my ears than it did to my thighs. It was really cool. And I think I can do it now if I really try. Sometimes I can still do it, I think. But it's not going to be at resting heart rate. At like night for 90-pound Afraaz, the way I could do it back then, I could just be completely silent, or if I like put my hand over my ear, like I cup my ear, I put a cup over my ear, I could hear the whooshing sound, of course, but I could also kind of feel it. I can't feel it right now. I don't know. It's been a while, but yeah, let me actually show you. I was literally talking yesterday about how I don't like to do the webcam anymore. I don't want to do webcams for a lot of stuff, but I'll show you. Like, okay, look at this. I have a few mouses here, right? This is one of the mouses I use. Look at how much bigger my hand is compared to this mouse. Now, I could, like, use it, right? I could hold it, but my fingers go way, way over. My fingers rest over the thing. If I want to do this, you know how uncomfortable it gets to play games? There's a light. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's from the mouse. So yeah, you know how uncomfortable it gets to do this for a long period of time, to hold it like this, or like this, for a long period of time, and I'm adjusting, because it's really uncomfortable. And even then, it's still like, I still have so much overlap over here, Ideally, I would love for a much larger mouse where I could rest my hand on the thing. I never rest my hand. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to have small hands. People used to be like, oh, if your hand is bigger than your face, you have cancer. The fucking diagram would be a good thing. I'm gonna see if I can. You know what it is. If your hand is bigger than your face, you have cancer, and then they would just slap your face. But they'd look at me and they'd be like, "Oh, wait, your hand is actually bigger than your face." This is one mouse. This is another mouse. It's significantly bigger, but it's kind of locked in, and even then, it's still way too small. If I rest my palm on it, it's still like this. Is the biggest mouse I have, okay? And this is the mouse that I use for my MacBook. It's my main mouse. It's my favorite mouse of all time. I love it. It's incredible. It's the best mouse ever made. It's the Logitech MX Master 3, something like that. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, M3 or something. But it's weighted as well, so it's kind of beefy. However, even this, Even this, it's the biggest mouse. Even this, if I rest my palm on the part you're supposed to rest your palm on, look, I'm gonna rest my palm. I didn't move it or anything. Look at that. I can click like this. Oh, it's on. And I could scroll, and it's kind of annoying to do this. But if I want to do it like this, you know how I'm usually holding it? I'm usually holding my mouse like this. My hand is completely off the thing. That's annoying. Somebody make a bigger mouse. I've been to Micro Center, I've been to all these places. Nobody has a big enough mouse. So, and I really like this button right here. It's so creative to have like the thumb buttons too right here, scroll wheel right here, and then also a button inside this. If you didn't know, MX Master, like if I'm using it, I could click down on the thumb section and it's a button. It's really cool. But yeah, of course you can see I'm much bigger now than I used to be. I'm not a twig anymore. People have been telling me that lately. Oh, I gotta show this. I have a terrible webcam, but I gotta show this. I'll be right back, 1 sec. These are my flip-flops. They are my favorite flip-flops ever. I've been wearing them for a really long time. Before they were mine, they were my brother's, and before they were his, they were my dad's, I think. So they're very dirty. They're kind of shaped like to our feet. Like you could see they're torn apart. They're really like used. You could see it's like basically been like shaved off because of how much we've used them. These are really, really used, and I wish I could fix this part. I really want to fix this part. But you'll notice I'll wear one, right? It's pretty big side to side. I got a lot of space. But it's really not big like at all when it comes to the length. You can't even, my toes go over it. If I wear it real quick, let me wear it. This is what happens when I'm walking. My toes, when I'm walking, it's like all the way up because it's like dragging my feet because of the rolling friction of the thing. But literally my toes go basically over, and when I'm pressing down, if it's raining outside, and all that stuff, like my toes step in all this stuff. My toes are going over the thing. You see what I'm saying? Because I have really long but really thin feet. Me being skinny is not just like a malnourished thing. It's literally like my body type. It's literally like my bone structure is designed for a skinny person. Like everything about, like, okay, I don't care how much I work out, okay? My fingers are never gonna be like normal looking. I know that. I'm well aware. I've been told by a lot of people the way my fingers look in person is much different than it is on camera. They look like spider legs. I'm well aware. It doesn't matter how much I really work out. If I eat a lot and I just, make myself a bit more vascular as well as introduce a lot more fat into my diet, because I need that, absolutely need that. I need a much larger body fat percentage. It's too low for me right now, maybe 6%. For Cristiano Ronaldo, that's fine. But for me, no. I need more. And if I have that, my fingers will be a bit chunkier, right? I really want, I would love some insulation on my fingers, dude. You have no idea how quickly I have to go inside and when it's cold and be like, damn, I can't play football with you guys anymore. I can't catch the ball anymore. You have no idea how much quicker that happens for me than for everybody else. So, yeah, I'm working on it, but I know it's because of the structure of my fingers and how much longer they are than everybody else's. My body's kind of designed to like always be skinny. I don't think I don't think anybody will ever truly consider me fat. I think the most I could ever be is fit if I try my hardest to be fat, which is what I'm doing. What else is in here?
Characteristic
Oh, wait, hold
would
up.
be tall privilege, a characteristic which is naturally unearned, but the
Mhm.
benefits that come with being tall are conditional. Being tall is an advantage when grabbing something hard to reach. It is not an advantage when flying coach. There's also something to be...
Wait, but you could say that about all the other ones. They're conditional. And the reason why being tall, most people would consider an advantage is the thing with girls. And I'll tell you this, being skinny doesn't help with girls. Being skinny makes you invisible to girls. In fact, being skinny kind of like makes you a girl in a way. Not really, but being skinny, it's like, dude, like a quarter of the clothes in my closet, not the clothes, but like the shirts, the t-shirts in my closet are girl sizes. And nowadays I can't find any anymore because now all these girls have like no self-control, right? So they just let themselves go and, you got Lizzo fucking tub of lard size in the store, but you don't have like, reasonable size anymore. So you got all that. And before, now I can't just go like, okay, I want big girl clothes because big girl clothes means you're a fucking sphere, okay? It doesn't mean you're tall. It doesn't mean you're like big in a good way. So yeah, fucking fat bitches, dude. Look at every aisle in Kroger, bro. It's always low fat this, low fat that. Bro, where's the high fat stuff at? There's nothing. I have to get everything online. And now even like there's so few females that have any sort of self-control nowadays in the United States that even when it comes to like clothes that fit me well, like all these clothes fit me well, right? But like you take for example that t-shirt that the long sleeves t-shirt that was like kind of like the sleeves, the shirt was big enough to fit on Faison when I brought the video on my channel. The shirt was big enough to fit on him. It was like tall enough or whatever. But the sleeves were so thin that there's no way his arms would have fit in there. No way, not possible. It would have torn the shirt. That's badass. He should have put it on. It was an expensive shirt though. It was a gift, so I'm not trying to do that. And there's no way he'd want to wear it either. But maybe I might give him a shirt of mine to just tear. I don't know how we put it on to begin with, but to do some Salman Khan shit like that would be cool. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, no. When it comes to like clothes that are like kind of like fit my body really well, it's clothes of girls that are very, very tall. That's what it is. So I don't know where the hell to get any of that stuff. I will also say privilege is not like it's a thing you compensate for, and it's kind of a lie because it's kind of a game forcing you to do things like being fat and skinny doesn't actually play nearly as much of a role in sexual preference as people might think it does, as people might feel it does intuitively, because people intuitively when they're growing up feel like everything matters so much more than it actually does. Therefore, they're likely to overcompensate and try to grow themselves, which in a way is kind of an advantage. If you truly feel yourself to be unprivileged about a lot of things and that it's possible to overcome these privileges, that can give you an advantage because you're going to work on overcoming it. Now, if you believe that there's some invisible shadow group of people out to get you because of your race and that you're helpless to stop it because you can never change your race, That's how you really keep a society down. That's how you keep a group of people down, is you convince them that their whole race is unprivileged. That's how, if you really hate black people, convince them that there's a thing is white privilege. That's how you do it. But as something that you can work on, like competition in the marketplace, I mean, dude, why do you think, I mean, I don't gotta, like, even bring up any statistics here. You all have seen the patterns. There's way more fat, funny people than there is skinny, funny people. Way more. Because if you're fat, you have to be funny. You have to develop some sort of, like even when I was in school, my thought was, well, I'm not an athlete, so I can't really, of course I'm not like thinking this, but it's like, it's a subconscious thought. Can't really get any of these girls. How can I get girls? How about I make a fuck ton of money? And then I started to make money, and I'm like, you know what? Money is kind of boring. I really don't care all that much. It doesn't give me any sort of happiness, and it's a huge wasted effort because I sacrificed a lot of things to get money in the first place. A lot of things went down the drain because I wanted money, and so I'm righting my wrongs now. But then I was like, hey, maybe if I just sound smart all the time, maybe that would work, and it kind of did work. I didn't really develop the funny factor the way a lot of these other fat people did, and the way a lot of other skinny people did. But I'd say I'm above average. I'd say I'm above the NPC at least. So the disadvantage actually led to an advantage, because you look at you look at the way girls drool over the Timothy Chalamet body types. Dude, being skinny is the meta. And you go anywhere, everything will be the meta. The world is so big, everything will be the meta somewhere. Everything will work. These things don't matter as much as people might think they do. But if you think they matter and you want to work on it and you're ambitious, you actually stand to gain a whole bunch of advantages. The richest people I know all grew up poor. And the people who I know that grew up rich are looking like they're going to be poor for in their later years, in their 30s, 40s, 50s. That's what it's looking like to me. So there's definitely a yeah. When you look at Greek god X, that's a shame, right? He was fat and funny, and then he was fixing himself, and he's no longer fat. And for a little while, it seemed like he was going to be able to keep his humor, and it was like a little cheat code: be fat and then be fit, and you get to keep your humor. But now he's not funny anymore. Oh well. I really wanted to collaborate with that dude, I really wanted to hang out with him at his prime. But now he's just a fake. Just like this person.
But anybody says sorry.
I explained this yesterday. It's Steve or whatever. It's in the clip from yesterday. I posted it already on YouTube. But everything this dude does, it's all scripted, bro. It's all fake. Because here's the thing. Nobody who looks this good, nobody who has this much natural beauty can be this creative. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. If you're fat, you're a social outcast. You have to make people laugh to reach the level of everybody else they have by default, right? And later on in life, when these things stop meaning as much, when people don't watch your content because you're beautiful, they watch your content. Okay, a lot of shallow people do. That's why fucking Shawn Mendes and all these people exist, right? But everyone realizes the stupidity of Shawn Mendes fans. So I mean, at least if you're intelligent, you realize the delusion in that kind of fan base, right? But yeah, if you don't want to be a social outcast, you have to develop other things, and in the process of developing those other things, later in life, you end up winning. You end up winning, and people like this, either it's an incredibly rare find, or it's the more likely solution here, more likely situation, which is, let's see, 8 hours ago, this dude definitely is just faking all this shit. He's scripting all of it. You listen to the way his
When
girlfriend talks.
anybody says, sorry mom, I'm getting a motorcycle, that thing is sick.
You're not getting a motorcycle.
Why not?
Because I had a friend that fell off and now he's blind and only has one arm.
For real?
Yeah.
Well, no wonder he fell off.
Yeah, you see, the post, he's not this creative. He's not. I know he's not. You could tell by looking at him. This dude is a fake. So, it's just not possible. I mean, it's possible. It's incredibly rare. And the fact that this dude has a girlfriend that somehow the way they speak lines up perfectly with Tumblr posts from 7 years ago, like word for word. Yeah, no. This dude's a fucking fake. I'm telling you. You won't find people that's that funny who's also that attractive.
Be said about height as it relates to dating and, by extension, natural selection. Studies have shown that a majority of heterosexual women prefer a man who is taller than
So I guess studies show it. Never mind. Yeah, that's it.
they are. And heterosexual men as well generally prefer a woman who is shorter than they are.
Well, generally the shorter women are much more likely to stay fertile for longer. As gross as that might sound, that's how it works. The taller the women, the more likely they are to be infertile in their 30s. So, yeah. Makes sense. From an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense. I don't even care about this.